Imagine spending your entire life becoming one of the greatest fighters on the planet. You win Olympic gold, collect world titles, silence every critic that ever doubted you, and build a resume that almost nobody can match. Then, out of nowhere, you find yourself trending online, not because of a championship fight, not because of another historic victory, but because a reality TV personality posted one single picture. No punches were thrown, no bell ever rang, no referee stepped in. Yet somehow, millions of people were convinced that the world champion had just lost a round she never even fought. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, that's exactly why the internet hasn't been able to stop talking about Claressa Shields and Tesehki. What started as a simple boxing challenge quickly snowballed into one of the messiest internet feuds of the year, mixing professional sports, social media drama, and just enough pettiness to keep everyone glued to their phones. And trust me, by the time we get to the ending, you'll understand why people are saying this was never really about boxing at all. Everything we're discussing today comes from publicly available information, and whenever something hasn't been confirmed, we'll treat it exactly that way, as unconfirmed. If you enjoy deep dives into viral stories and internet drama, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and let's get into it. Every viral feud has a beginning, and this one started with confidence, maybe even too much confidence depending on who you ask. Nearly a year ago, Claressa Shields, widely considered one of the greatest female boxers of all time, took to social media with a challenge that immediately grabbed everyone's attention. She announced that she'd pay a huge cash prize, eventually increasing it to $100,000 to anyone who genuinely believed they could beat her. It didn't matter whether you were a professional boxer, a street fighter, or someone with a reputation for throwing hands. If you thought you had what it took, the invitation was there. Now, from Claressa's perspective, the challenge wasn't exactly outrageous. After all, this is someone who has spent years dominating the sport at the highest level. Olympic gold medals don't fall out of the sky. World championships aren't handed out because somebody had a good day. They come from years of discipline, sacrifice, training camps, injuries, and countless hours inside the gym. When you've accomplished everything Claressa has accomplished, confidence isn't surprising, it's almost expected. But social media doesn't always interpret things the way you intend. Instead of debating whether anyone could actually beat Claressa inside a boxing ring, people immediately began throwing out one meme over and over again: Tesehki. And that's where the conversation started taking a completely different direction. For anyone unfamiliar with Tesehki, she built a reputation that couldn't be more different from Claressa's. While Claressa's image is built around championships, discipline, and elite athletic achievement, Tesehki became known for her appearances on reality television, where viewers watched her get into explosive confrontations and physical altercations. Fair or not, many people came away believing she possessed raw, natural fighting ability. She wasn't known as someone with Olympic training or years of boxing fundamentals. Instead, people viewed her as someone whose instincts took over whenever things got physical. Those are two completely different worlds. One fighter represents years of professional coaching, structured training, and technical precision. The other represents unpredictability, natural aggression, and the belief that some people are simply born with something you can't teach. And when those two worlds collide online, the internet practically writes the headlines for itself. As Tesehki's name continued circulating online, it didn't take long before she addressed the growing comparisons herself. Rather than dismissing the conversation, she leaned into it, offering a perspective that immediately split the internet down the middle. Her argument wasn't that she could walk into a boxing ring tomorrow and outbox one of the most accomplished champions in the sport. Instead, she made a different point, one that quickly became the center of the entire debate. She suggested that if she dedicated herself to the same level of professional training that Claressa Shields had spent years mastering, the outcome might be very different. According to Tesehki, everything people had seen from her over the years had come naturally. She talked about about never going through formal boxing camps or spending years sparring under professional coaches. In her view, the fights people had watched weren't the result of technical instruction, but of instinct, confidence, and raw ability. Whether people agreed with that claim or not almost didn't matter, because it immediately gave social media something new to argue about. Suddenly, the discussion wasn't simply about who would win if they fought tomorrow. Instead, people started imagining a completely different scenario. What if someone known for natural toughness actually received elite-level boxing training? Could raw athletic instincts eventually catch up to years of disciplined technique? Or does professional experience create a gap that simply can't be closed? Those questions spread across comment sections, reaction videos, podcasts, and live streams. Everyone suddenly had an opinion, and the rivalry kept growing without either woman ever stepping into a ring together. Supporters of Claressa pointed to the countless hours required to become an Olympic champion. They argued that boxing isn't just about throwing punches. It's about timing, footwork, distance management, conditioning, defense, ring IQ, and years of repetition. Natural talent might help someone survive a fight, they argued, but it doesn't replace decades of technical development. Others, however, found Tesehki's confidence intriguing. They believed there are certain fighters who possess instincts that simply can't be taught, and they wondered how dangerous someone like that could become with professional coaching. The debate became less about facts and more about possibility, which made it even more entertaining for people watching from the sidelines. While the internet continued arguing over hypothetical matchups, another question quietly started gaining momentum. Why was this rivalry continuing to dominate the conversation? From the outside looking in, many fans felt Claressa had already proven everything there was to prove inside professional boxing. She had championships, Olympic gold medals, and accomplishments that placed her among the sport's all-time greats. Because of that, some viewers questioned why she continued addressing someone who wasn't competing in her division or even participating in professional boxing. Critics argued that every response, interview, and social media post only increased public interest in Tesehki. Supporters pushed back, saying Claressa wasn't chasing attention, but simply responding to questions she kept receiving from fans and interviewers. Both sides gained traction, and once again, neither side could convince the other. Instead of letting the discussion fade naturally, the rivalry found another burst of energy when Claressa publicly floated the idea of a $300,000 fight. That announcement reignited the conversation almost instantly. Headlines began circulating again, reaction channels jumped back into the story, and social media users debated whether such a matchup should ever happen. Around the same time, Claressa also shared fan polls asking who people wanted to see her face next. Every new post generated thousands of comments, with Tesehki's name continuing to appear alongside other potential opponents. Before long, people weren't just talking about professional boxing, they were following the rivalry itself as if it had become its own form of entertainment. Whether the discussions were intended as promotion or simply responses to fan interest, they succeeded in keeping the story alive week after week. Then came the moment that completely shifted the conversation. Instead of responding with another video, another challenge, or another statement about training, Tesehki chose a completely different approach. She uploaded a photo featuring Papoose, whose name had already become part of public conversations surrounding Claressa. Within minutes, screenshots of the post spread across every major social media platform. People rushed to dissect the image, the timing, and especially the caption that accompanied it. Although the post itself didn't confirm anything beyond what viewers could plainly see, that didn't stop the internet from building countless theories around it. As often happens online, perception moved much faster than verified information, and the image quickly became one of the biggest talking points surrounding the feud. Reaction videos appeared almost immediately. Some viewers interpreted the post as harmless trolling designed to get people talking. Others viewed it as a calculated move aimed directly at Claressa. Still others argued that the internet was reading far too much into a single photograph. Regardless of which interpretation people believed, one thing became obvious almost instantly. The conversation had shifted away from boxing entirely. Instead of debating jabs, footwork, or conditioning, everyone was now debating social media strategy, personal relationships, and who had managed to seize control of the narrative. Not long afterward, Claressa responded by sharing her own photo with Papoose, accompanied by the caption, "Good morning to my man and my man only." Predictably, that response generated another flood of reactions. Supporters viewed it as shutting down rumors and reaffirming her relationship. Critics interpreted it as evidence that Tesehki's post had successfully gotten under her skin. As with nearly every stage of this rivalry, people saw exactly what they wanted to see. There was no universal agreement, only more opinions, more debates, and more engagement. By this point, one thing had become impossible to ignore. The original conversation had started with boxing, but it had evolved into something much larger. It had become a battle for public attention, where every interview, every caption, every repost, and every response carried almost as much weight as an actual fight. In today's social media landscape, controlling the narrative can sometimes become its own victory, and that's exactly why this feud continued dominating headlines long after the original challenge was posted. So now the question shifts to you. Looking at everything that unfolded, from the initial challenge to the debate over natural talent versus professional training, to the rumored $300,000 matchup, and finally the viral social media exchange, which moment do you think changed public opinion the most? Did the champion successfully defend her position, or did Tesehki manage to win the internet without ever stepping inside the ring? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because one thing is certain: this conversation doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon.